The Ocho up on the TV here in the studio, an actual dodgeball, the inspiration for ESPN the Ocho on TV. Right, these dudes are serious about the dodgeball, man. As serious as I was about the Hall of Fame game last night. That's right, I was all about it. Watching the Raiders take down the Jaguars, and joining me now to talk a little bit about it, he covers the Raiders for SB Nation. Bill Williamson, our guest. Hello, Bill. How are you this afternoon?
Hey, how's it going? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I know it's your job and all, but I was saying to start the show, I was football starved. I don't know what it was about this offseason. I felt more football starved than I usually am, and the Hall of Fame game was appointment viewing for me. Were you as hyped for this as I was, Bill?
Yeah, I didn't really I didn't get into the 40-minute delay, but that's just a guy working, but yeah, it was fun. It was more entertaining than I thought it would be. And, I've covered the NFL a long time, and I've never really gotten into the preseason because I know that for the most part, once we get to, September 11th this year, we're not really going to be thinking about the preseason. Very rarely does the preseason have any foreshadowing on any team. But, yeah, it was fun, and I think for the most part it was a satisfying night for Josh McDaniels and his team.
And I thought it was more exciting and more entertaining than most preseason games, in part because I do want to talk about Josh Jacobs in a second, but you brought up Josh McDaniels. Am I crazy, Bill, or did it seem like the Raiders were throwing more at the Jaguars than you'll usually see in a preseason game, especially the Hall of Fame game?
Yeah, it certainly looked like that, and it was on both sides of the ball. And it was mentioned during the broadcast. And again, I remember I was covering the Denver Broncos about 15 years ago in a preseason game in Dallas, and Wade Phillips was the Cowboys' DC back then, and the Broncos were pissed because they were just blitzing them all the time. And I was like, hey, it's not really what we really signed up for, boys. And but you know what? It's the way it goes, and if the coaches can decide to do whatever they want. But I did find it a bit fascinating that there was some scheming going on. And I think that kind of made the night more interesting. That you mentioned Josh Jacobs playing, and that was extremely unusual and unexpected. And the Raiders did play, at least half their starters on both sides of the ball, and they were scheming. So that did make it an interesting night.
What did you make of Josh Jacobs playing as much as he did and starting the game when obviously Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, all the big name skill position players were standing on the sideline when this thing kicked off, and there was Josh Jacobs. Do you think there is some purpose or some message behind that?
Well, there's a couple ways to answer that. Some people have reported, they pointed out today that, when in New England, a couple of the Patriots, primary running backs did play some in the first preseason game. But, Josh Jacobs is a little different than those guys. He's been a primary number one. I thought the broadcast, their take on it was a little naive, and I think most of the reporters and the shows today, it's a big topic, and I think I kind of tend to lean towards the reaction that today's getting, that it is unusual and it is a little weird. And we will see. There's already speculation. Are they going to trade him? Oh, we'll see. I'm interested to see what happens next week. The fact that Zamir White ran so well and ran with authority, and it wasn't just he looked like he belonged, didn't he? I think that's a problem for Josh Jacobs too. I think this is going to be a committee, and I don't, who knows how it's going to fall. And, there's going to be injuries, and we'll just see. So I would, after yesterday's game, I still expect Josh Jacobs to be a Raider this year. The biggest issue here is that's what happened in late April, and they didn't exercise his fifth-year option. That's bigger than him playing. That tells the story more than last night. That shows, the reservations more than him playing last night, but certainly it's an interesting situation.
One of the things that folks are watching closely when it comes to the Raiders this year, and is the big question mark on the offensive side of the ball, is the line. They ran the ball very well, including Jacobs. I thought he looked pretty good, and the rest of the run game, 4.8 yards per carry, but 5 sacks allowed. And I know that wasn't necessarily the unit that they'll run out there starting in week 1, but how concerning was the performance from the offensive line in the pass protection last night?
Well, hey, this is a total work in progress, this offensive line, and a lot of stuff's going to happen in the next 5.5 weeks, in the next, the 3 preseason games and then camp. Yeah, it is the biggest question mark. I found it interesting that 4 of the 5 current starters, it was interesting that Leatherwood and Parker both play. Colton Miller didn't play. He was the only, right now starter that didn't play. And Jacksonville didn't play a lot of their defensive starters. So it is concerning because if the Raiders are going to make the noise that, they expect to make, they're going to do it in the passing game, right? It's the quarterback, and it's Adams, and it's Renfro, and it's Waller. That's the deal. The running back's going to set up the passing game. So if they can't get constant, solid protection during the season, it could be an issue. And there's a lot of good pass rushers in the AFC West. And Derek Carr, I mean, if you want to put a knock on him, and I don't knock Derek Carr, nearly as much as a lot of people, but I think in the 8 years he's shown that if you can get to him, he can be less effective. Derek Carr is at his best when he gets really good protection. So yeah, they're going to have to figure it out. And I expect there to be some sort of a move. You can't bring in a Pro Bowl caliber guy at this point.
Sure.
But the offensive linemen, solid offensive linemen do get cut, at the end of August. So I expect something, I expect there to be a new face there at some point in the next month. Is that a save all? I don't know. But, Brandon Parker is a guy who struggled, his career. And he struggled again last night. And, Leatherwood had some moments. But again, I think in pass protection, it wasn't great last night.
Bill Williamson, Raiders reporter for SB Nation, our guest here for just a couple more minutes on Cattles and Ramie. We mentioned how much the Raiders threw at the Jaguars last night. Defensively, they've been sort of hush-hush about what exactly this defense was going to look like. Multiple looks in terms of the fronts that we saw 3-4, we saw 4-3. Is that what we should expect from this Raiders team, or was that them kind of trying to figure things out in preseason game number 1?
Yeah, you don't have to figure it out in preseason game number 1. So I think they did it with a purpose. I think this is a well-coached team. I think we saw that last night. I was, not answering this direct question right now, but I was impressed that there wasn't a lot of penalties and there was no turnovers on offense. So pretty well-coached team, especially in week 1. It looked like a team that was ready to go, and that's not always the case. The Jaguars are a lot more sloppy than the Raiders, so that's a good overall sign. Defensively, yeah, it's going to be a work in progress. And Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, his first press conference, he said I'm going to be multiple, and he downplayed the 3-4 to 4-3. I think, at the end of the day, there'll be more 3-4 when they're in base. But yeah, I think there is going to be multiple looks, and we'll see. I think, the defense did get off the field a lot, and they didn't give up a lot of points. But I don't know if I was over like, wow. I just think they looked well coached, and we will see. The key is going to be health and the secondary. And guys like Darius Phillips played a lot yesterday. Nate Hobbs played some outside. So if that secondary can get improve, I think it has a chance to be really good. Now, I don't know about really good, but good enough. Good enough. I don't know if this is going to be a top 5 defense. Well, I'll have to see that. But if it could be top 14 with that offense, you got something cooking there.
One more for you, and I'll jump back to the offense. Who's winning the battle for wide receiver number 3 right now?
I mean, I guess you're saying Renfro's number 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably going to right now. Maybe Cole, maybe Hollins. Hollins had a really good camp. I don't know if they have to be electric there. I think they can be really, Josh McDaniels is a real matchup guy, depending on the defense he's facing. So I think behind the weapons of Adams, Waller, and Renfro, we may see different guys featured a little bit more, depending on how they can exploit the other team, and guys who could be in that mix, or Cole and Robinson and Hollins, and maybe even Tyron Johnson.
That's Bill Williamson, covers the Raiders for SB Nation, and our guest for the last few minutes here on Cattles and Ramie. Really appreciate the time and the insight, Bill. Thanks a lot.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I agree with him, man. And I know I said this at the top of the show.